joining that clock sometime.
You're really coming ahead there.
It's 5:30 and call the meeting of the Ramsey County Commission to order. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Welcome, everybody. First item on the agenda would be the approval of the previous meeting minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Oh,
From the
yeah.
previous.
There was a change in the drone price from our previous minutes. I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
So before we,
Yeah, we had it at 13,000.
there were some additional shipping charges to that, so it's like 15 something
15,249.
for the cost of the drone, so a little extra than what we originally had on our approved at our last meeting. So noted, minutes are changed.
Sorry, just as a point of clarification, wouldn't the minutes not change and we just have to approve 15,000 instead of 13,000 this year?
Well, the original motion was for the 13, just so you guys are aware that.
Right, I know, but just for the sake of like correct records, you know. I don't, never mind. Final thing is on this.
Thinking we should approve it at the original.
Well, it's just that we should.
I think the minutes should stay the same, and we should just make an amended, or another motion just to pay the difference.
Right, that was my
So it
thought,
should
because
be
that way you're
amended,
not going
because
back and amending.
At that time, that's what the minutes should reflect. We should just make a motion now, or when we pay the bills, to pay the addition.
I'll do that.
So I guess if it's all right with the chair, I'll make the motion and then we pay the difference, which comes to, how much was it, about 15,000?
15,249.
So $2,249.
Motion, second. You paying that, you want a roll call?
Well, we haven't gotten it yet, so.
Yeah, we haven't gotten the, we're not paying the bill, so all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion approved. So now we should be all good?
Yep.
Approve the agenda.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve the agenda as submitted, as printed. Second.
Yeah, sorry.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Dina Kemet, Central District Director of North Florida Extension.
I'm no stranger to this group, right?
Right.
Sarah coming up, she's gonna maybe give a little report too. If you have enough time. I feel bad because I know there are other people here waiting. You wanna go first?
Sure, yeah, I just, while I have you guys here, our committee for the Lake Region Extension Roundup has met a few times, and we, are looking at, we'd like to have, hold it in person, but we just, obviously last year we did it virtually, and it went fine as well. So you know, in the case that we are able, you know, that things are looking fine and we're able to hold it in person, we're just making sure that it is okay with the commission that we go ahead and, you know, plan like we have in years past. And host it in the Memorial Building, with some breakout sessions in the Memorial Building, basement, courthouse, meeting rooms as well. And armory. If that would be.
Yeah, I think you can plan on it being like a normal year and then just consult with district health as it gets closer.
Right.
See what we got to make change, but otherwise.
Right. Yeah. Okay, and same time frame, early January, 2 days.
Wonderful, we look forward to it.
Cross our fingers, yes, that NDSU doesn't deliver some edicts saying we can't be face to face.
Or we hope the numbers don't go any higher than what they're currently at.
Sounds like what we hear too, that somewhere in November, we should try early November, we can hope to go down, so. All right, anything else from you?
No, just round up, we just wanted to see if we should move forward with planning, so.
So I see on your agenda that I'm slated to give an update on the county agent position, which is one of the two things I came here to discuss with you. So should I do that one first?
Sure, yeah.
Right now we have 2 candidates that we are looking to interview. So Adam has volunteered to be the representative, obviously, from the commission group as portfolio holder. So we just screened yesterday. So that we'll be looking at dates. I actually blocked dates for next week because I'm an optimist. I was hoping to pull it off. However, the biggest question I have is, one of our candidates is out of state. And if I kind of want to nod and you all can weigh in on this, if we want to do an in-person interview with both of the candidates, I just need to know when I call and make the arrangements, which I'll start working on tomorrow. I mean, would you wish to give the opportunity for a virtual? Because they have to do a presentation and spend time answering questions with the committee.
So the question basically at hand is, do we give them the option to not have to
To
travel
not
just
travel, but
because?
we pay for their travel, just so you know,
Okay.
you don't pay anything. But if the feeling is you want them to come here, and then I can tell you this, this candidate actually interviewed for a position at Langdon Research Center 2 weeks ago. So she came to North Dakota and was in Langdon and was one of the top selected, but not the selected candidates. So she has been to, you know, the general area. I think she probably flew into Grand Forks, but if you want her to come here, I will make that part of the deal. If you want to interview, yeah.
That's always the preferred method.
I think I would say that's a preferred
I
method.
just needed to know if that's how we're meeting, because she contacted me and she actually asked if virtual would be an option, and I said, well, since I'm going, I'll just ask. Okay, so we'll be interviewing 2. I will be in touch with you either directly or through Sarah to set up the interviews, and we have 2 other people identified to serve on the committee with the 3 of us. You all okay with that?
Yep.
You're the partner, remember, we move together through the process.
How many apps did you have?
I was thinking I wasn't gonna share that information, but, we had 3 people who applied, 2 that we thought were worthy, I guess, that meet the minimum requirements. So those will be the 2 we interview. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know, as the newspaper person here, we have to be a little bit careful. Okay, can I have your pen?
No lie.
No, I'm not gonna lie, I don't want it printed in here. I'm a little disappointed that we didn't have any internal candidates. I worked pretty hard in the central district trying to get some of our experienced agents to consider a move, given the opportunity to negotiate a new salary,
Yeah.
bringing along that nice experience, but I don't know, people get pretty rooted in their communities, and that's a good thing. But I had a couple that actually came to Grand Forks and drove around and looked at it and gave it some serious thought, but, so the 2 candidates that we have, one is from elsewhere in North Dakota, but not from within extension, and the other candidate, like I said, she is a doctoral graduate, I mean, so she's very top notch, and like I said, just got real close to being hired as a specialist, but we would be doing wonderful with either one of them. I think one has turned her 4-H background. Shane?
Just as a quick point of
Yeah.
clarification, in case I missed it, you
you are going to allow virtual if that's the only,
No,
so, okay,
if
so
the
we
group
decided-
feels she's gonna have to come,
So then you'd only be interviewing one candidate.
too,
Well, if she's willing to.
if she's
Right,
willing
if
to
she's
come.
unwilling to come, then you only have one candidate, is that,
That's,
that's fair?
I don't think that'll happen.
Okay.
I really don't. I got the feeling in my conversation with her that if we had consensus that face-to-face was the way, that she would come, she comes from Nebraska. So.
That's fine, I just was.
And again, it won't cost you anything, and DSU pays for their travel and all their per diems and stuff, so. We can look to Adam for a little bit of a updated meeting.
Does any issue have a preference?
No, some, in the east, the district director, she is hiring right now for a couple positions, and she is allowing virtual. Their numbers are a bit higher for COVID, but then they do any interviews that they're doing. If one does virtual, they have both for 3 or 4. They all have to be virtual.
You know,
It is not my favorite way. I have done it that way, like a year ago, we thought we had to. I like being in a room with people too, I get it, so.
you know,
We'll go that way and I'll be in touch.
especially during the presentation portion,
I know.
it'd be a lot easier to do it in person.
Certainly.
Yeah.
You think she's ever been in Ramsey County?
I don't know, she was in Langdon, and again, I don't know that she came through here, but it is nice if they come and at least
Yeah, sure she's ever.
see. I'm not sure that she's ever been here. I know that she was in Langdon, and I'm pretty sure she had to fly into Grand Forks, so she traveled,
I think it would be logical if you want to experience it.
Yeah. She's spent some time in North Dakota previously as part of her undergraduate program at one of the research centers, so she might have some knowledge. Be a good question to ask. Okay, and I have to say this next little piece, this is definitely not news to you guys. This is a courtesy call. Do you want me to just pass it down this way instead of walking around? Sarah, do you want to look at what I'm handing out? I'm sorry, I'm like an extension person. We always hand out things. You guys probably are more familiar with this piece of information than any of the other counties that I'm dealing with right now, and that is the mill levy. And the vote that's due to expire in 2024. I know that you guys have gone down this road and you've tried to pass additional. According to my notes, and you could remind me, I've been talking to a lot of auditors lately about mill levies, and I wrote down in the commentary that at last taxable year, you guys were at 2.5 mills that support the extension program. So half a mil is what you're above the allotted to. So if it would revert, what's a mil in your county worth? I didn't have that in my notes. Oh, so we're talking even at half, that's still $33,000. So, I mean, our leadership folks are working with Terry Trainer, which I know you guys all know Terry Trainer. They actually put together a PowerPoint presentation and delivered information to the Association of Auditors. So, it's been rolled out. Auditors are not new to this. They've already been aware of what we're gonna go around and talk about. Also gonna mention that at the Association of Counties conference coming up in October, there's gonna be a session that is focused just on this. So if you wanna come together at a table with other counties, as you can see by the map in there, that you're not alone. I will tell you of the counties in my own district, I have several that are opting to just leave it, and because the amount is such that they're just gonna take it from their general fund to make up the difference. But there will be a few, at least 3 or 4, that will be going to ballot. So my leadership team asked me to come and tell you, to be just thinking about your options, and that is to do nothing and let it expire and figure out where you can cover that half a mil, or replace the mill levy, with general funds, or reduce the extension presence in the county. That's a hard thing for me to even say out of my mouth, because I'm talking about filling position right now. And I recognize that probably that amount is somewhere in the neighborhood of your 50% of that person's salary. So, I mean, we could right now say, if we felt we weren't gonna be able to come up with that half a mil, we don't wanna lose the staff we already have. So give that some thought. We have till 2024 when it expires, but you can,
Excuse me. Hasn't Ramsey County voted on this?
Couple times,
Yeah.
but failed.
How did it fail?
So it will expire in 2024. The soonest now opportunity that you would have to put this on a ballot would be June of 2022. And the Association of Counties is actually drafting some ballot language to provide to the counties. There's a lot, you can see 22 that have been affected in the past 5 years, going above 2. So in 2024, you're gonna come up against roads and capital improvements. Their mills expire the same year. And so extension recognizes that we do not want to be on the ballot opposite roads and capital improvements. So we're kind of trying to work with our partners to say, let's do everything we can. If we can get it on earlier, and then if it fails again, you at least have another chance to take a run at it. Okay, I mean, again, I'm not telling you what to do, I'm just laying out your options. Also want you to know that NDSU extension staff, like Sarah, Cindy, and whoever we hire, they cannot lobby during their work hours or with county resources. Obviously, we don't use taxpayer dollars. So our ag communications department will be drafting some things like some language as well that they can use. There are ways that they can help, but they can't do it during work hours or with county resources. We will work with advisory councils, 4-H councils, and any other groups that our agents have, like the crop improvement associations, and plead with those people to help do some of that legwork that agents can't. So any questions, and then I'll be done, because I know you guys got a lot to go over. Okay?
Thank you so
I
much.
have
I have a
Thank
question
you.
for you, Dina.
Yeah.
I know I'm not on the town commission, I'm just wondering when this legislation became,
You know, I have it on here, and the first one was, and it was the one that's 11-38-01 and then 1. The number 2, well, we 10 in 2014, because it was a 10-year, set at 10 years. So you can look it up in the North Dakota Century Code, and I'm sure it's got a date in there, I'm sorry. Mine just says 2024 unless it's set to expire sooner.
I believe it was part of the, when they did the mill levy, when they tried to, they had that big commission that Governor Dalrymple had, and then they tried to determine if they could combine some mill levies and stuff like that. Part of the deal to get it through was they stuck a cap on a couple of them that we were gonna have to revoke. And I think it was part of that whole process.
So the one option that you have, I mean, is to specify mills that you vote specifically for extension, or that, like in Towner County, they voted for home rule, which means people's taxes aren't affected, but I mean, you know how that works, they just give themselves the freedom to shift where mills were.
We definitely don't.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, you've been through this more than I have, that's why I said I'm definitely not here with my notes, because I'm not expert on this, I know you all are.
Like you're talking, the main concern for the commission level, I guess in my mind is if we look at asking for both of them and neither of them passed, and in 2024, we're at our general fund bill cap. We've had this.
Certainly.
So it's gonna be interesting, let's put it that way.
Just know that we're here, we want to work together, we want to make sure we do things the right way and help out what we can to. Thanks.
Thank you. Sarah. Rhonda.
Hello, thank
how are
you. I'm good.
Good. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm here today to talk about COVID sheltering for homeless persons or persons that have nowhere to isolate. We have, numbers are ramping up. We're due to hit our peak here the end of the month into November, and we're speculating we could house, if we're, I don't like to play the numbers game, but I would tell you 10 to 12 people. We have not had a request yet, but I believe that we will. I just talked with Alan from Public Health, Alan McKay, and he told me that, they are having more people come in for vaccinations, but we will have a need for homeless COVID sheltering. I'm sad to say that we did run that during the height of the pandemic in March last year. We just do not have the capacity. I know that Ed and Adam listened to our child welfare supervisor at our meeting on last week on Monday. We are absolutely positively tapped out. So, I was in contact with Brenda Bergsrud last week, and then today we had another conversation. For her organization that does have, peer supports and they do advocacy for, they have a contract with North Dakota Department of Corrections for folks that, are coming out of, the prison system to provide peer support, that type of thing. They do a lot of things. They also have the Machi mentoring program for, young people that need a mentor. But Brenda would be willing, her agency would be willing to provide the 24-hour support. We just found out that we put folks in a motel without 24-hour supervision and support. It just doesn't work. It did, but I'm gonna tell you, we are tapped out. I am not willing to ask my staff, and I hate to say this, I could do it, but I could not keep up the pace that I think it would require. I took 5 and 6 day stints before we had 24-hour supervision. It's a couple calls a night for a couple hours. I mean, you're up several times during the night answering questions. So we really do need that 24-hour support. That's expensive. And so it's $1,000 for a 24-hour to have the intake person and support. She would also arrange the meals, do the intake. Alan McKay from Public Health does have a nurse that he could dedicate. We'd also use resources from the Human Service Center for mental health issues that do arise, and they were very good to work with last time. And then we get meals from the senior meals, and that's about $35 to $37 a day. So it is reimbursable by FEMA. I know that Candy and I talked about, she was like a trooper and said, I'm willing to go into the portal and get our money reimbursed. So it's not cheap. We're looking at about $1,300 a day. I don't know, because I don't have access to the portal, what would be reimbursed. Alan does not have COVID money. The county did not pay last time. It was COVID money from Public Health. Paid all the bills for the COVID sheltering. And I apologize, the number flew out of my head. I was gonna tell you how many we sheltered last year, but I think it was, I'm looking at Candy, 26?
I don't think it was 30.
It wasn't 30, so a lot of money. 5 to 6 days was the time frame that most people stayed.
It's $1,300 a day per person.
Roughly, yeah. I don't know, if we put a family in a room,
Some would be overlapped too.
It would
If
be
there's
overlapped.
4 or 5 people at
Yeah.
the same time, you just have that one person staffing.
right, so it's just the days. We don't have one person, we don't have a staff person per person, thank you. Sorry if I didn't clarify that.
Okay, so it's not 26 times 1,300 times 4 to 5.
No,
Some
it's not that.
lower number than that.
So if we had 5 people in there, it would still be $1,000 to staff it and do the intake, yeah.
Okay, so no matter how many people we have, it's $1,300 a day.
Well, the meals would go up.
Well,
So-
sure,
Right.
but in general, it's nearly that, okay.
It's 69, well, if they give us the same rate, it's about $69 for a motel room, about 35 for, and I probably didn't say that, 35 for the meals, and $1,000 to staff it. So if there's 10 people or 8 people or 2 people or 1 person, it would be $1,000 for the 24-hour staff, which is very expensive. And I will add in that, I will hope and maybe even pray that we don't get a call. But I think that's not worked for me before, my on-call years of doing human services, so.
Hope and praying doesn't work.
No, my dad had a saying about hoping and praying, and I won't share that here, but you can imagine. So, it wasn't good. I don't think my grandma liked it much, but that's what he said. So,
Rhonda, does the state say anything about helping with this?
no state dollars, it would be FEMA reimbursement,
Federal,
federal.
But we don't know what portion.
we don't know what rate.
So in other words, we'd have to front the money to pay the bill, and then we would
Get
be
reimbursed.
looking for reimbursement, but we don't know what the percentage of reimbursement is.
We also don't know what the bill is yet.
Right,
But we
So-
just have
so-
to pay it.
So basically what I think, unless I'm wrong, Rhonda, what you would like, and I'll just throw a number out, I could be wildly wrong, but you would like us to approve, say, out of the COVID dollars that we have, I presume that this must be an allowable use. You know, that we approve up to $20,000 of expenses, and if for whatever reason it gets to be more than that, you can come back in and ask something to that effect. Is that what you're looking for?
That would work. It would also, we could also get it back through FEMA if we wanted to go to the work. If you wanted to spend your COVID dollars on housing and hope that we don't have a lot of folks, that would be another thing we have.
Well, I suppose we couldn't get reimbursed if we were spending federal COVID dollars.
No, well, you can, but you can't. I mean, it'd have to be general fund, and then if you don't get reimbursed, you have to just use it. So I don't think we get 100%.
That's why I asked about this one.
Right.
Be part of this game. They got old money. A lot of it.
I think it was in Bismarck's hands at one time, and then they
dumped it on us.
they dumped it on us.
The community.
And it was the state's.
In a great
Oh,
surprise,
really?
to know.
Yep.
In a great surprise to know.
And that surprised me.
Well, and it's not really, this is totally, it's totally up to our community. It really puts the hospital in a bind, it puts the emergency room in a bind, if we don't have some place for someone to go that needs to be somewhere. Because obviously, they cannot go to someone's house. Apparently something's happening that's better, because our numbers would reflect, again, and I'm not good at this, but our numbers would reflect with the number of people that we have positive, that we'd have 3 or 4 by now, but we have not had a request. So,
Well, it's also warmer than it was in March.
good point.
I don't know if we need necessarily put a dollar figure on it, but just essentially we need to make a motion to allow for it to occur, basically, correct?
Probably, but then the question becomes, if we go that direction, is it general fund dollars and hope we get reimbursed, or are we gonna spend COVID?
This is really open-ended.
Now, that's kind of the other concern.
I think, at least in my opinion, you spend the general fund dollars, then you try to get it reimbursed, and then what doesn't get reimbursed, we got COVID dollars back. Because that's what COVID dollars were for. We got $420,000, so it ain't gonna cost $400,000. It'll cost something. Not $400,000.
Ron, is there anything else we can do?
Promote vaccination.
We're ready to spend a lot of money. I
Although-
can't believe there's a lot of it gonna come back to the county.
Well, I don't wanna say, but I think 60 to 80% would be a FEMA reimbursement, but,
It's not 100.
it's not 100.
But 60 to 80 is kind of guaranteed, kind of.
Yeah, I mean,
I think
Previous
that's
people matched was
what
80.
it, yeah, I think that's what it was in,
yeah,
whenever we did that.
and we did have, at least, I know that someone that knows a lot about Candy's gone in there and looked around, she gets it. I don't have access to the FEMA portal. I don't want access to the FEMA portal, just to be clear, but,
And I can check it out, I can go in there and see if anything has changed.
I just know that, based on the experience we've had this summer with hospitalizations, we've had a kid that needed serious medical care, and I told you this, and we had another one diverted. There's just nowhere at the inn for anyone. So if you're ill, you'd go to a hospital, but if you're not, if they can at any way keep you with treating, they're gonna try to keep you.
We have about 30 seconds.
Yeah, I
here.
was gonna say, can we, not to throw you in the bus, can we
Yeah, no.
handle this and talk?
Well, either that or make what motion and decide. on
Would it make everyone more comfortable if we cap the dollar figure and then see where it goes? Okay, I'll make a motion that we direct Rhonda to work with the Machi to, set up for the possibility of needing to use, homeless shelter for COVID and cap it $20,000.
COVID dollars?
Let's do general fund right now, and then we can see if we can get reimbursed.
That's right.
And then we're back to it.
Yeah, and then we can back.
We have a second.
Second.
Motion to approve, Rhonda working with Ramsey for a $20,000 cap on the homeless shelter. At that point, come back and visit us if we exceed that. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, motion carries.
Yep, thank you very much. And I'll work with Candy to get the reimbursement.
It is 6 p.m. We will talk about the 2022 budget here, and we'll open that up for public discussion. And we do have some public hearing that would like to discuss the 2022 budget, I would assume. Anybody want to go first? We can certainly talk about the budget. Unfortunately, we will see an increase next year. A big chunk of that is derived right out of our need for additional law enforcement. Law enforcement incarceration comes back to the state's attorney. And we're getting a big hit on all three. Our numbers have increased locally for incarceration, averaging about 42 inmates a month. Probably more.
High 40s.
911 calls, we're currently 1,354 calls more than what we had all of last year.
Well, I think the state's attorney can probably attest to his caseload also.
And we have those case numbers, increases from last year to this year, big increases.
Anecdotally speaking, we're looking at about 59%
Increase.
through where we were last year to where we are today.
Yeah.
And I know people want to say, well, last year was kind of a goofy year, but even compared to 2019, they're up too. And within that, we're seeing more violent type crimes.
Stuff where we have to keep people locked up for the safety of the community and people out.
Right. So we're currently looking at an additional uh, 6.5% bill increase. And I understand that's been a big increase, and we don't want to create additional hardship. But with that, it's open to the public. Anybody want to? Yes,
Do you have a copy of the budget that we could look at?
Sure.
I mean, something that I can take home?
Well, you can make me another copy, Ken. Don't need it.
We can certainly get a copy.
The mill sheet or the actual full budget?
Yeah, did you want the full budget?
Just to,
Or
Just to break down.
Just
Just
to
the-
break down.
Yeah, we have the full budget line for line and then we have a breakdown set up. There's a couple of these. See what we're looking at. Essentially, last year, we were at 90.81 mils, and we're we're looking at 99.44 mils. So it's about an 8 point, my math is right, 8.6 mil increase. It's an $806,000 increase of total taxes over last year, about break even. And just, I guess I can echo Jeff's points. If you look at our line items on how our budget works, our law enforcement center bill is up $480,000 on the budget. The state's attorney's budget is up probably, a couple $100,000 in that range. The sheriff's department budget is up another couple $100,000. So basically, all of the increases are law enforcement related. On top of the fact that we actually have to additional mills on to get more road projects done next year too, so to rebuild the fund too. So I think, in all honesty, I was kind of surprised after we sat through our initial budgeting in August that we came in honestly as well as we did, considering all of the pressure that our budget has been under these last couple of years.
Well, I'd say, 9 out of 10 on average of our departments had no increase at all. There were almost every department came in with a whole even budget, which.
Yeah, essentially it was just our increase in salary to try to keep up with inflationary factors, and then it was law enforcement costs. It's basically what the budget is. It's the increase that we have. And I don't think any of us has a good answer how to make that more palatable, other than, we've had many discussions in here talking about how could the state maybe chip in to help us a little bit locally with incarceration costs and things of that nature, but.
Well, and I think, I don't mean to put words in the public's mouth, but I assume that this is what they're feeling, which is, this is unsustainable. And I agree. And I'll be the first one to agree with everybody here. This is unsustainable, and if costs continue to increase in terms of incarceration, it will break the county. And so the end result of that is the state is going to need to step in, and as commissioners, it does fall to us to make that case to them, but in the short run, we're gonna be spending on incarceration next year, no matter what the state does, so got a budget for it.
And very similar to social services in years past, and thank goodness they, saw the need for that, and they took over the social services costs. But this is another area that we certainly need help with, and I think they're seeing it across the state. But we're certainly feeling the brunt of it here, right here in Ramsey County. Looking at numbers from the sheriff's department, Steve had given me numbers. 2020 general calls for service was 2,644. Year to date at the end of June was 2,041. So they're almost at their number of calls for service halfway through the year. Traffic stops are up, over double on traffic stops. Arrests are about, from 218 all of 2020 to 125 through June. So unfortunately, it's,
It'd be interesting to see what the calls for service from the police department in town is, because that's what we're getting a majority of the charge out cases, I would assume, from in town, the police department. I'm sure they're helping.
Other questions, comments from the community?
Mr. Schluter, anything for us tonight? No? Mr. Beamer?
I guess I'm here as the township tax assessor. I want to be informed so I can share information with members of our township.
Mr. Eswald?
No, I'm just here to see what's happening.
Sure. Appreciate you guys coming in tonight. Any other discussions? It's open for public comments. We have to finalize our budget come October 7th. We'll be doing that. So where we can cut, we would like to be able to cut a bunch and save people a bunch of money. Certainly can't guarantee that happening. Lisa, you have anything you'd like to add? Lisa's always a wealth of information.
No, not really.
You know,
What?
Does the BIA help with any of the expenses?
So the way that I understand it is whatever the arresting entity is the entity that pays the costs. Is that correct? So I mean,
We have a contract with the BIA for if they have overflow prisoners, correct, at a daily rate for those that they hold at the law enforcement center.
right, so that's not an expense that we
That's
bear,
it.
that's actually,
That's
that's
it.
actually a revenue source, right? If the BIA needs somewhere to house prisoners.
I've said it many times and it probably wore out, but the problem with running a jail is that you want it to be full, but you want the people in the jail to be from someplace else. Because then it's a revenue center, not a cost. Unfortunately for us, it's a cost and it's a continuing cost. It's escalating and it's not gonna get any cheaper. I mean, cost of labor is going up and everything else. Getting good staff is costing more money. And our incarceration numbers are they're increasing. So, and the majority, I think, of the law enforcement center budget is what, 60-something% of the total incarcerations are Ramsey County responsibility.
I think it's 75%.
75, yeah, it's a lot. We're essentially by far the main entity that pays for the cost of the law enforcement center and running.
I can't speak for the county commission, but my name's Bo Cummings. I'm the state's attorney. At least for my portion that I'm requesting the increase, a county of our size, with the crime rate of our size, the types of crime, we are understaffed. And so we've asked for 2 additional staff members, another attorney to help manage the load, and another assistant to help manage the load. At least that's the increase from my office, the request, I should say. I'd be happy to talk to anybody if you want to step up to my office later in the week. Come on, bud.
Anything else? Any other public comments? Anything else from the commission that we're looking at? You know, I think last year at this time, we were hoping on some prairie dog money. I don't think that came to fruition. So we had to make some budget adjustments there for our county roads. Big project next year would be the Hampton Road, correct, Kevin?
New bridge.
And the new bridge. And those we kind of borrowed from federal aid from years past, so.
Borrowing ahead again.
Borrowed ahead again.
Once we get that bridge done, though, we're gonna be in pretty good shape from the bridge standpoint.
From the bridge standpoint, we've been very aggressive on fixing and replacing bridges that needed it, that are out of service or out of life expectancy, and downsized a lot of those, so a lot of those should be coming off our tax rolls, or not so much our tax rolls, but need for replacements. But you know, some of the really concerning things, like Dina pointed out earlier, with NDSU coming off the rolls, and then the road, is that 10 mils that's coming off?
No, minimum.
Minimum of 10, so 2 years down the line.
There is, don't quote me or tell me if I'm wrong, but I remember sitting through our Northeast 9 meeting and Terry Sherman expanding upon the point that there was going to be one of the mill levies has an expansion on it too, correct? To try to offsets that slightly, not the full 10 mils, but there is a slight expansion. So it's not like you're gonna just have to dump 10 mils off, but it's not enough to make up for the difference. And anybody that knows paving costs more every year, and everything costs more every year, so we get less. I mean, and granted, our, mills have increased too, in terms of value, places have changed too, so we can keep up, but it's always tough.
I think you mentioned a couple of years ago, Adam, that, when you first got on the commission, that we were sitting at about 130 mills.
Yeah, maybe 138 or something like that, first year I was on.
So, we've done really good at reducing the number of mills, but,
Social service.
The state helped us quite a bit.
the state helped us there, but.
What ain't gone there, yeah.
Yeah, we were at 37 mills or something, I think, on just social services this year.
So we need to lobby the state for some help on incarceration costs.
Struggling not to soapbox about home rule, right?
Like the commission feels that roads in Ramsey County are in pretty good shape overall. I mean, there's some holes somewhere. County roads are in good shape, and we worked hard to do that. And people need to use them. They should be in good shape.
And I think we've worked really hard to keep our budgets under control. We have a limit on our general mills of 60, we're at 48 this year. Is that right? So, sometimes when you talk to the state guys and you tell them that you want help on certain things, they're like, well, you're not at your general mill cap. And I'm like, we don't want to be. That's the last place we want to go.
First thing they look at.
Yeah. So.
And when we saw the increase was coming this year, we kind of started on the fight. The one thing I think we also, as a commission, we talked about quite a bit is, the road system as a whole costs a lot of money to keep up, but the county is just a portion of that road system. Without decent township roads to get to the county roads, then the road system is really not fully functional. And then the townships are always hurting for additional funding too, and ways that we can try to help townships and try to keep their roads in shape better. Obviously, blade ones and stuff, but if we could find a way to maybe help them a little bit. I know they've got some money out of the, I don't remember the last pot of money that they had, the state pushed out some township dollars.
Just, it was 10-15, yeah.
But we'd like to, try to help them too, as much as we can to try to keep roads in shape. But maybe that's one.
They come down the law enforcement. I don't think anybody's interested in defunding employees. They cost money. Had to put 2 new deputies on last year, a year ago. And we didn't get you. You didn't need them, we didn't think, but we did. And I guess the sheriff talks, he's lucky he's got them. Keeps them busy all the time.
It's a non-winning game.
Now, we're in the high 40s on average of incarceration, law enforcement center daily, high 40s, year round.
And we have drug task force, and they're busy as can be, so then we had another drug task force officer a couple years ago, and then they're crazy busy, and then that gives both more business, and then we put more people in jail.
But I mean, the other option is to let the community rot,
Yeah.
right?
We can't.
I mean,
We just can't, so.
Well, good. And we started in December on the legislators, get some help from the state for law enforcement. Last December, we started talking about it. Anytime they get in front of me, I ask them again. So part of this problem is theirs also. That's a lot of the problem with social services, but a lot of the help we got from the state for social services. When they took over the fund, I took 40 mills off our taxes. It was huge. I don't know how much we're gonna get out of the law enforcement center, but it's gonna be some. And we'll stay on it when the session starts.
And that's one thing we can address, with our county cohorts down at the Association of Counties meeting, to visit with them and see what other counties are dealing with as they run through their budget process, and encourage people to visit with their legislators as we move forward, and they'll have an interim session, and a lot of these issues that we're discussing here today, they have on their interim study committees, and they're studying these issues throughout the interim. So even though they're not in session, they're always attending meetings, and they're always busy, our legislators. So when you see them, put a bug in their ear to keep some of our property taxes in mind as well. With no other discussion, we will close the public hearing on the 2023 budget. And I thank everybody for coming in tonight.
Thank you all. And we're all always available to talk if you have any additional questions.
Yeah. Good. Don't necessarily have to take it out on our staff, but you can always call a commissioner. We're willing to listen.
It's okay, I got big shoulders.
The worst part is when you generally agree with them, it's all cost considering the money, right? It's like, I don't know what to tell you, I don't want to sign a new paper.
So,
Kevin's here to tell us about the pot of gold he just found, right?
Turned out to be food.
Kevin,
All right. First item, meetings down in Bismarck next month. Our meeting with secondary roads is gonna be on Tuesday at
10:15.
10:15. Anybody's going? Okay, and then also the road project out on US 2 out here, the whole meeting for that. I don't know if you guys have heard yet, but I'd like to share this information on October 7th. It'll be the same day as our commission meeting, next commission meeting. We're having 3 different 2-hour sessions to explain that to the public, so anybody is welcome to go attend that. Times there are from 9 to 11, 1 to 3, and then 4 to 6.
You're gonna have the project, so how they're gonna do it, or? just-
Yep, they'll have maps and pictures and videos, and yeah, it'll be worthwhile attending. Just
Are they just taking input?
Huh?
Are they taking input from the public? Is that
Oh,
what
yeah.
they want to do?
Yep, that's the goal.
They haven't got a final plan.
No, well, after they get the input from the public, then they'll draft that final plan. So no, I mean, concept is there, it's just the details are still.
Where's it gonna be at?
Oh, it's gonna be at, International Harvester, I cannot think of that.
High Plains.
High Plains. And they're great for that.
and this is a 2024 construction project,
Right.
and it's Highway 2 east of town.
Yep, it starts, by Senex, goes all the way just beyond the rest area.
Beyond the rest area, but not all the way to Prairie.
No. They want to pave the parking lot of the rest area, so they went just past it, so they could get that, pave the parking lot in there.
And then, is that just the east side?
Both sides.
Both sides.
Yeah.
Ooh. Okay.
They're talking about reducing the speed limit, turning, some turn lanes. It's not totally determined where those turn lanes will be yet, but that's part of the discussion. Maybe some frontage roads.
Or frontage road long, frontage road wide.
Like I say, nothing in concrete yet, but other than, I think I did hear that the speed limit's gonna be reduced for sure. After their study, they determined that they need to slow the traffic down out there.
We've been telling them that for 10 years.
Slowing it down permanently to pass the rest area? Are they thinking, or?
No, they'll probably speed up about the B plan, I'm guessing, I don't know where.
Sure. Right past Laning's there.
Yeah. Just a little ways past. After you turn out the campground there, probably beyond that campground, I guess.
Interesting. October 7th.
Same day with next meeting. Okay, next item is a discussion on Ramsey County 2 north and west Penn. I think Ben Webster was curious what we had in mind for that road. So maybe I'll let you talk about what you need in there, Dan.
Well, you want me to talk?
You go ahead, Dan.
Kevin's gonna pull it up here on the,
Oh, okay.
on the screen.
There it is.
Picture of the road.
This is looking west towards Church's Ferry where the water starts now. It's probably another 1.5 miles, 2 miles to Church's Ferry yet. So, and then if you go north of Penn, this is probably about 1.5 miles east of the Penn Road.
West.
Yeah, west, sorry.
West of the Penn Road.
Yeah.
So how many miles of the road are like this?
Well,
This 1/2 mile or 1/4 miles like this, then you get over a knoll, and then beyond that is pure water. It's been lots of water right now today.
yeah, I'd say you got about 2 miles or you got about 1 mile like this, or maybe not this bad. Then it gets high again, but nobody's been on it. I'm sure there's been some hunters or some 4-wheelers on it, but there's sections that never went underwater there, but it's all grown up. And that goes for about another mile, and then you hit we used to call it the old gun place. And then that's a hill, and then it drops down into the water, all the way to Church's Ferry.
What's that?
So it's about, the road's good until where you used to turn and go up to our farm.
So that picture was taken about right here, roughly in here, looking west. So this is the high knoll here that, there's still some farm ground in here. So, but what's your intention, Dan? You plan on pumping this water here?
Well,
I don't know what's going on.
I just called Jeff because I just was wondering, what the county is gonna do, because, the lake is finally down far enough to where we could consider, holding the water on the north side and pumping off, and getting, probably, I don't know.
Was that 11 that you lost all that south of that road?
Yeah, 2011, when I went over the road, we lost about 3,000 acres. Yeah, so, I remember coming in here and asking the county in about, I don't know, Kevin, what year it was, we plugged those 48-inch squash culverts, so we could use the county road for a dam there to hold the water from going south. And we did that for several years. And then 2011, it just, we had bales and everything lined up there. We just couldn't hold it.
Yeah, this portion probably went up under like 98, 99, 2000 somewhere. And you could still use this part at that time.
Yeah.
But then when we had the big floods, then of course they don't.
So is that whole run on the east end there we're looking at, is that all out now, all the way up to that knoll then?
The picture was looking here, you see the water here, and then you see the grass right here.
Yep.
In the picture.
But the road runs all the way to that longer
It
peninsula right
goes
there.
all the way, there's a bridge right here, it just sticks out of the water, you can't even get onto the bridge. And then,
Dan, is there access? Is that road out of the water to that high knoll in the middle there?
Well,
we're talking,
no, we have to go through Slettons.
Oh, okay.
you have to come from this direction.
It comes from the south down there. Okay.
But see, Sletton just put his all in a,
Water bank or.
well, I don't know, I think he put it in, I don't know what he put it in, but I think he put it in WRP.
Yeah.
But Hausman still farms his stuff to the north there, and then I have a quarter there, that kind of that ridge there, that high ridge. It'd be a section 4 southeast quarter of 4, I have a quarter there
Okay.
that I can't get to. But that's been in water bank. I think it's coming out now. But, you know, you can't believe the traffic on the damn thing. That's what amazes me.
Yeah.
So-
It's the fishermen or whatever.
Yeah, so there won't be any of that up there, because there won't be any fish up there this winter, I don't think. But you'll have hunters, and, you know, I guess what I didn't know what you guys were thinking. I didn't know, you know, all the materials in the ditch. Because there was riprap for about a half a mile there, and that saved it on the north side, and then it just sloughed off all into the ditch. And then I think as you go further east there, you know, the waves never got to it because there wasn't wave action. I don't think. I don't know. I haven't been down there.
Oh, this is all pretty good here, is that what you,
What's that?
further east, you said?
Yeah, further east. No, further west. Excuse me, further west.
Yeah, I haven't been down there in 10 years. Yeah, 10 years. You can't get there.
Great.
This is still underwater here.
So that little point then that kind of hits where the kind of ridge is there, then west of there, is it out of the water or is it underwater?
See that little point right there where you have his arrow right there?
Yep.
That's Overland's farm. So I think from there to the west, I'm thinking the road is fine all the way to the hill.
Really?
Where's the hill?
Right there, the ridge right there.
Really?
Yeah.
And the land south of that road then is getting used?
The land south was farmed until this year. Sletton put it in some program, you know, what wasn't in water, yeah.
But the land north is water on it.
Well, he's farming, he's still farming that stuff to the north. He farmed some of the Noltemeyer family way up there, I think, and then Sletton had 1/4 up there that, I don't know if his sister owns it or I don't know what happened, but 1/4 didn't go in to the WRP. So, Jim is still farming that. And, you know, I don't know, I suppose, you know, Brad will have to give him access to go across his land to get there.
And really what we should be doing is creating some sort of county policy to deal with roads that come out of the water. And,
Well, I mean, if you guys were gonna, yeah, that's just what I was wondering is, if you're gonna abandon it, then you know, who has liability on it? If I plop some clay on there to hold the water so I can pump, do I have liability on it? Who has those questions? Because you can't keep people off it. That's what amazes me.
Well, it's a section line to start with. So since it's a section line, it's gonna be public access unless we abandon the section line. Or close it, which.
None of them got abandoned?
Huh?
Yes, when they bring that up, we took this piece from here down to about here and gave it to the city of Church's Ferry, so they turned that into a dike or something, whatever they did, I don't know.
Yeah, it was a dike.
What year was that? You know?
That'd have been
Well, 13, perhaps, but
after they got bought out. Because the
Yes,
city was
you're
bought
right.
out in 99.
Yeah, after they got,
I tried to get there the other day, you need a four-wheeler or something to get up on that dike. You can't get there with a four-wheeler.
that's holding some water back from coming into town.
Yeah, in this area here it is. I mean, at one time it was all along there, but not anymore.
Well, my question would be is if we do something on the section to the east that we're talking about over there, is that gonna improve your access and things like that you're gonna need?
to the west, you mean?
Yeah, to the west.
Well, yeah, I'll be able to get to my land. And if the road is intact,
Then it
I would be able to
essentially-
pump.
Yeah,
And, you know, if the lake keeps going down, the drainage is to the north. So we'll dig the culverts out, the water will run to the north.
Well, so am I missing, was this a county road at one time?
Yeah.
It was a county road, still is a county road.
It's the extension of Old County two that goes east of town, it's on the same line, but it goes west of town.
The old highway too.
Yeah, Old
It's
Highway.
a pretty heavily used road when Church's Ferry had the elevator.
It's busy. Well, I mean, we don't have a standing policy, but I think our intention has always been, if a county road came back out of the water, we wanted to try to get it back in shape, so it's at least usable from, like you're talking about, a liability standpoint. We don't want anybody to get hurt on it. And just from a usability standpoint, so we can, as long as it's, not gonna cost us $1 million or something, because it's all gonna come out of our coffers, because there's no FEMA match or anything like that.
It's a section, not a section.
Oh, this is what we cheap.
Yeah. And Bo was just kind of mentioning that this is something that we should add separately to a meeting. So it can be an agenda item and an action item. Because we're really kind of discussing policy here and,
Well, there probably isn't many roads like this, but.
right. But I mean, we did do some improvements on that county road south of Church's Ferry. And that came out of the water.
The county line road, did Benson County help with that?
Yeah. No.
No,
Okay,
we haven't done a lot yet, just mowed it.
See if the bridges are good as well.
Yeah, we tried bridges, we mowed it, tried to get it somewhere.
Well, there's a lot of land that's gonna be
Yeah,
farmed to the south there now.
yeah.
Be a lot of land south of that road.
South of Church's Ferry?
It's full too there.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this stuff here, I mean, I've got, I don't know, 6, 7 quarters still in the water on the north side. And, I don't know when, that's one of the things I wanted to say is, if the county, if you were gonna fix it or do something with it, I would probably wait a year, because
Yeah,
if you're not gonna do it again, I'm thinking, well, you're only gonna do it once if you do it. And let's see where the lake does in the spring. If the lake keeps going down next year, and it's down in the spring, we would probably just dump some clay in that one spot where the water is still going across. It isn't very wide, probably, I don't know, 30 feet, Kevin?
Not the most.
Yeah. So, and then we could, if we wanted to do the work, spend the money, then we could pump it. And then it would be all dry, and a lot easier to work with, on the south side. And if the lake keeps going down, the water will be, a lot less on the north side, and I just wouldn't do it. I just don't think you'd want to do it this fall,
no,
because we don't know what, there's just too many unknowns. And I'd sure like to see something done on it if the county would do it, but I don't want you to do it now and then we lose it again.
yeah.
There's so many things, so many unknowns. I mean, if they're gonna run the outlets, like they say, when the lake is at 46, then I don't think that water would ever get there again. Once it gets down another foot or two, and it's gonna take a 3-foot rise.
Can you bring up the contour map there, Kevin, just out of curiosity, so I can see what the location there is?
I think you're right, though, Jeff. I mean, we should have a good discussion about how we're gonna handle these, because this isn't gonna be the only one. And I would assume at some point in time, townships are gonna come in and start talking to us too and say,
Well,
can
the
you give us
township
some,
roads all over out
Yeah.
there that are just prairie trails and everything
Yeah,
else.
the other contours.
which is, it's kind of amazing that none of the townships have really approached us to this point, asking for some type of help now that we got rest of it back out of the water. And how we're gonna try to handle them.
Yeah.
'Cause
So I
like
guess
you
I
said,
just
some of them
wanna
are
know
taking a
it.
lot of work.
And if next spring, if it's, you know, if it's something that we can do there, I'd just come and talk to you guys or what?
Oh,
yeah, stay in touch.
Yeah.
Well, we're gonna need to come up with a policy.
I think in the meantime, between.
Well, what's that at?
This up to here is 1450. And then this is 1450 through this middle section to about here. And then I don't see any numbers for any of this other stuff, but it's obviously lower. So if you're, what do you set, the 5 foot of contour or something like that probably?
Yeah.
So this is probably through this middle section here, must be about 1445 maybe-ish.
Yeah,
Maybe
that's about right.
something like that. And then this is kind of the same way over here because you can tell where the road bed was because it's obviously, it must have been, the base of the road bed must have been about 1445 on all this run here then.
Yeah, this was 48.
Yeah, and I don't know what,
So we set the 2 feet of contour.
I don't know what year it was, Kevin, when the county raised that road. You know, right past our,
That was in the late 90s, I think, girls 2000.
yeah, they raised it to 53.
Well, Dan, would you be comfortable with us coming up with some kind of policy and then that way?
Yeah, I think you guys should come out there on 4-wheelers and ride around a little bit.
Only if you're supplying the 4-wheeler, I'm afraid I don't have one.
Pretty other than amphibious things.
All over the year.
It's good for you to see the western side of the county out there.
Starting to come back, starting to come back. We got a ways to go, but a lot better than we were, 10 years ago.
Yeah, a lot of dry ground coming out.
Yeah, and you know, I told Elizabeth, I said, you know, we farm it, we'll pay taxes on it. So,
That's a whole other thing we've talked about a couple of times about how do we handle that, like you said, with the uncertainty of the water going up and down.
well, you can't do it real fast.
Yeah.
It takes about, in my experience so far, it takes about 3 years to get it, to get the land to come back full.
Reclaimed and back producing the way it.
Well,
should be.
yeah, mainly because of the cattails.
Sure. Yeah,
Just
anytime it rains, they, grow a foot.
Now this year, you know, because the lake receded fairly quick, we were able to work quite a bit on the lake's shore that didn't have time to grow the cattails. So I think, you know, if the lake stays down, you'll be able to go out there and seed that, and there'll be a good crop in that right away. It's the cattails that are, it's unbelievable.
Okay. We'll start working on a policy to address county roads that are, coming out of the water. Have that discussion at some point in the future. So that's plan, Dan?
Yeah, that sounds good. I just wanted you to be aware of it, because there is a lot of traffic on it.
Well,
There is some.
Well, there'll be a lot when the hunting season.
It's all posted.
Huh?
It's all posted. There's posters all on both sides.
That doesn't matter. That's just a, you know,
That'll stop anybody.
the hunters back their boats in there. It doesn't matter. I've seen them back right over both sides.
Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Dan.
Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
appreciate it. Thanks, Dan. Kevin?
All right, moving on. I need to buy some more gravel for our stockpile at the shop, and about 1,500 yards. I got 3 different quotes. Gowan Construction quoted me $17.22 a yard. Close was $10.25 a yard, and Soper was $9.70 a yard. So that was a big range. Yeah,
17, how much?
$17.22. They're coming from Cheyenne. It's all about the freight.
Yeah, that's what the cost to get.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to go with a little bit then.
I'll second, and there's no reason that there's any different quality, right? You don't care which one? Okay, perfect.
And the 970 was from
Soper.
Soper's.
So that'd be a little bit.
Okay. We have a motion to go with the low bid. Any second? All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries.
Last one, just for your information, the plow truck that we had ordered, delivery date got pushed back to November 4th. They're having trouble getting some of the electronic parts to build it, of course, like everything else, but one thing we'll have to watch there is make sure that it still stays on next year's budget. So that's getting close to, I talked to them, last week, I guess I talked to them, and they said if they stick to the November 4th, that they'll be able to meet, have it here by the end of the year.
Sure.
Not gonna snow anyway, we won't need it. Somebody better put a request in with the big man upstairs.
That's it.
We're hopeful.
And
And just a
Ed
reminder,
said it's not gonna snow, so.
if they push us back again, we may have to do
See,
that.
now that we're not getting a plow truck, you know it's gonna snow.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know it's gonna. Right around Halloween, we're gonna give them a 20-inch.
So,
So I got.
That's all we got.
November the 27th.
Yeah, that was bad.
thank you, Kevin. Keep us updated on that plow truck. And make sure that we get that in this year's budget. Mr. Rude.
Yes.
You were on?
Thanks for your patience.
Oh, yeah. For your patience.
Sorry, I had to look back. Thank you guys for letting me come in at such short notice. I'm gonna be very quick for you. The training facility has its own 501c3 now. So the ambulance service has turned over the old building to the joint training facility, effectively in the middle of this month. Construction, we had a little oops. In the wintertime, and we had a water break. So what we're doing now is we're basically got the whole inside of it. So we had a little bit, we're replacing a lot of the plumbing, some electrical. I don't know if anybody remember what some of our old managers, we had wires falling down everywhere. It was a hazard. So we are putting in 2 new bathrooms and then probably a kitchenette area for our search and rescue team to have a place to have meetings. So we've turned that over, and I would request that I was able to talk to the commissioner from you guys and from the city as well. At one point, we had talked about going in for the utilities of that until we got on our feet. We do plan on getting money so we can be self-sustaining in the future, looking at quite a few different options. Yeah, talk about the drone. Some of the money for the drone will be coming from the stuff that we're doing in there. It's a good way for us to combine fire, EMS, search and rescue. We can write for a lot of grants and get a lot of stuff. This could ease the budget for our county and city. But for right now, we're not self-sustaining. The plumbing costs is the service, the animal service is gonna cover all that. So, most of it's been all volunteer work. So it's been all first responders and then cleaning up and getting the place ready to go anyway. So, basically tonight I was here just to see if you guys would be allowable for one of the commissioners to sit down and just lend me a ear and visit with me for a while. Okay. We're gonna see a lot of changes in the future. I'm on the Northeast Board of Directors for EMS. We're seeing a lot of the volunteer services closing. I'm sure you guys are sure you have 2 ambulance services around the county. One is in very much danger of closing shortly. So I want to stay ahead of it. I want to help the community as much as possible. So that's all I got. You guys have any questions for me?
So you're not, you're requesting dollar amount for the utilities or cost share on that, or?
For the cost share, it's about $320 a month.
$320 a month. And did the city last night agree to?
The city didn't put me on the agenda last night.
Oh, okay. So we're not here to do approve or discuss that.
Right, we're not gonna, but they already told me that they put in for half, which just has to make it official, so.
Okay.
I'll wait till it's official for both of you before I ask for any more. We'll continue to pay it for the ambulance service until then.
We have any volunteers that would like to serve on the committee with Sean, or should I go ahead and appoint somebody? myself.
Blake's not here.
Blaine's not here.
That empty chair would do a great job.
Yeah, he's not here, he gets.
That's usually how it falls upon. Do you have any idea how often you'd be meeting or discussions you wanna have or coffee?
Coffee when that's done, we're over.
Yeah. Yeah,
Well, I'll do it. I mean, that's fine.
That's fine, that is coffee. Are there donuts involved?
Well, I can't be on TV.
Yeah, no, I'll do it. That's fine. Do you have my number and everything?
I do not.
Gotcha.
I'll grab it later, but I'll just let you guys. Anybody else have any questions?
No, I mean, from our perspective, I don't think there's gonna be any problem as long as if the city's willing to go in half and half, we're not gonna pay $320 a month. This seems like a pretty goddamn good deal.
and expanding services, you and I have had that discussion. You know, keeping our rural communities up viable, serviceable by emergency services is vitally important.
Well, and have it be a volunteer, not for profit. I mean, a lot of these profit-driven ones, it's a whole different ballgame. I mean, it's a whole different ballgame.
It's not hard to send
You're gonna-
this stuff.
You're gonna lose a lot of the volunteers. The hours that is needed to be an EMT now is just astronomical.
Yeah, they had an interesting breakout session on EMS at the last Association of Counties when we were in person, so 2 years ago. And it was pretty eye-opening about the need and the amount of work it takes to keep them certified. And you can see why it's more difficult, especially with rural North Dakota contracting in terms of people, is to get people that are willing to step up and do it.
Well, what's really wild about it is, I seem to recall that the federal government doesn't really have any support programs for anything EMS related, is that right?
Very much so.
Yeah.
You know, us.
Yeah, it's like a complete, it's just like, yeah, we don't, I guess like the Wild West, which is ridiculous, because I mean, quality EMS services should be right up there with police protection and fire protection.
Well, these people would probably assume that it is,
Yeah.
but it's just not.
You know, Department of Transportation actually will work on. So,
Crazy.
this is not.
And is Lake Region Ambulance the only one that's advanced life support within the region or
Within 100 miles.
within 100 miles? Yeah, so,
We have a lot of things that we're expanding on. I'll talk to you guys a little bit about that. About like trying to get VA transport going here shortly and also transport. And little mini ambulance, we call it that. So we have easier for like lake access and like that. So we are gonna expand a little bit, but that's just us. But as far as the county wise, we're probably gonna lose an ambulance. Munich is struggling, we're trying to help them, can't. Dakota, we've got them back on their feet, you know, and make a state. Spirit Lake will always be there. Everyone's always get the federal money.
Well, let's chit chat.
Okay.
Thank you for your time. Yeah. And anytime you want to give me a call or shoot me a text, we'll find time to work. Thank you.
thank you, Sean. New business, Lake Region Heritage Center Board appointment.
You said you're gonna do it again, so I'll make a motion that we appoint.
Mr. Wakefield.
Commissioner Wakefield. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same
You
sign.
can't say we railroaded you. You signed the paper and everything.
I couldn't believe it. That's all right.
You signed the paper then.
Hey, I like that.
Be a pushy one.
It's a heck of a board. It's been that long.
Thank you. Approve homestead credit.
Motion to approve.
Motion and a second to approve the homestead credit.
Yeah.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Alright.
Opposed, same sign. None, motion approved. Next item on the agenda would be an executive session to review attorney consultation. Topics of discussion are reasonable, predictable litigation involving Ramsey County, and actions and negotiation strategy pertaining to the operations of the Lake Region Law Enforcement Center. Legal authorities for closing this portion of the meeting fall under North Dakota Century Code 4404, 19.1, 11, and North Dakota Century Code 4404, 19.9, without one, section 9. Is that what that parentheses means is?
Correct.
Yes. At this time, a motion would be in order to discuss these topics in the executive session rather than an open meeting.
So, second.
And so motion and a second to, and move into executive session. Roll call, please.
That means I leave.
I'm not sure.
Tell the guy over to try to get that whole section.